We'll call to order the July, is this 26th meeting
Yes.
of the Finance Committee and the OBPA. And Sam Burns may arrive while the meeting's in progress, but we're going to proceed. And Patty, you distributed financial information. Before I start to ask questions or do things like that, would you touch on what you want to add to it to make this more understandable?
All right, if we look at the statement of financial position, you'll notice that we've broken out accounts receivable as we have with accounts payable, so that we can understand what our normal general accounts receivable are, which are 261,000. And 95.3% of that is either current or 1 to 30 days. So we're still keeping right on top of our receivables. The FAA entitlement grant is listed as an accounts receivable. That was what the OBPA billed the FAA for part of the snow removal equipment that went to the airport. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to show that one separately because of the large amount. The accounts receivable for the salt is another 225,000. And as that was certainly never budgeted, I wanted to keep that separate so that we could see it. Our grants receivable, I believe part of that is a duplication of what's in our accounts receivable FAA entitlement grant. So I believe there's a mistake in that. Most of what's in the grants receivable are smaller items, but I will check on whether the entitlement grant is in two places. If we go down to our accounts payable, well, our construction in progress before we get to accounts payable, 11.2 million is in the Tiger grant, and 7.2 million is in the harbor deepening. So there are 9 other projects in the mix that make up that other $1 million. Our accounts payable, our regular accounts payable was 632 at the end of June. We made it down to 417 on the 15th of July, but that's always a moving target as soon as we get more invoices in the door. Accounts payable retirement was at 215 at the end of June. We have since paid 71,000 and 65,000 in July. So the current balance for the retirement is now $79,000. We anticipate having that paid off in August as opposed to October of last year. The airport entitlement grant, this is the actual invoice from the company that gave us the snow removal equipment, but because of the large number, we wanted that taken out also. And as of the 30th of June, our Tiger grant had been paid, so we don't have anything sitting out there in the Tiger grant right now. We will shortly. And those are really the things of note on the statement of financial position.
I noticed that comparing the May 31st statement with the June 30th statement, that the long-term portion of long-term debt had increased by about $1.1 million. And why would that be?
The long-term portion?
Long-term liabilities you're talking about, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The long-term portion of long-term debt. We shouldn't have anything in there that's different.
Because you
Every April,
reduce the long-term debt.
right, every April we move the long-term debt into a portion of it into the current portion of long-term debt.
And do we keep 12 months worth of debt payments in the current portion?
approximately.
Yeah.
We look at what we spent over the last year and give or take, and then we make a
So that you
determination.
don't necessarily show a different current portion of long-term debt at the beginning of the fiscal year as opposed to toward the end of the fiscal year. We're
Well-
showing roughly the same amount.
It's long-term debt that should remain the same. Once we move the money from long-term to short-term, then that long-term should remain exactly the same until the end of the fiscal year,
So the short term diminishes as you make,
as we make payments every month. So I will check on that to see why.
okay.
um,
That's the sum total of my questions on the statement.
Just one comment or question. Our accounts payable, it appears we've made really good progress from year and a half ago. correct?
Yes,
It just appears we've done really good. I mean, we beat ourselves up every day, but we're doing
a lot of
as
that,
much as we can. I think.
yes, a lot of that has to do with the proper allocation of the CARES Act money. When we submit for the CARES Act, we've already paid all of these bills. So when we receive the money back, then we use that money to turn around and continue to pay more bills.
Mhm.
And so that has freed up our regular cash to continue to pay regular AP.
Mhm.
The other thing we've had is the benefit of salt
Mhm.
this year that has allowed us, and salt is paying for a lot of the old things, a lot of the very expensive old things. So to get them, such as Clarkson with the drone payments, that was just sitting out there. We're making headway. We're almost paid off with the drone payments. So a $46,000 bill is now almost gone.
Mhm.
And we've been able to do that with a few of these older, larger pieces, which have allowed regular monies that come in to pay current accounts payable.
Right. Good.
And eventually this probably will stop. But I feel it's goodwill that we're garnering with vendors
Mhm.
when we possibly come to that day where we have to say, it'll be 45 or 60 days.
Mhm.
But because we've been paying consistently, we can go to them with a good conscience and say,
Mhm.
It'll be a little longer this time.
Yep.
The budget to actual, we've done very well on the bridge revenue. We've been seeing that at our monthly board meetings that truck traffic is up. And they've always said it's 3 trucks to 1 car. No, 3 cars to 1 truck, right? So the trucks are helping us very much keep ahead of the game.
Mhm.
Our airport revenue, we have been selling fuel,
That's the budget though, right? Not to reality.
That's right.
yes, to
The
budget.
way we budgeted.
That's exactly right.
Right, we didn't,
It's not a
knowing the
normal-
pandemic would not let up until, we had budgeted for June for a change. I had secretly inside thought September, and I think that's where it will be.
Mhm.
But we are still doing well with the truck traffic. Airport revenue, our fuel sales are up 39,000 in June and 107 year to date. And that offsets, if you look down under airport expense, fuel is in the maintenance expense line, which is also up.
Mhm.
And that's because we're buying more fuel because we are selling more fuel. It would be lovely if we could actually keep those together, where only fuel money that comes in goes to offset the fuel that has to go out, but we're unfortunately not that lucky. Our marine terminal revenue is up because of the salt. And when you look at the loss on the wind turbine line, you can see that we're actually making more with the salt, bringing in revenue at this point than we would have with the wind turbine.
Mhm.
I spoke to Kathy about the railroad revenue. That railroad revenue comes out in the audit that the railroad sends to us. It's approximately 150 pages, of which Kathy needs 2 pages to get the traffic or the number of rail cars that have come in. And from that, we can then create the bill, but we have yet to see the audit from the rail company. So that's why that still hasn't come through.
Is it normally, we normally have it by now?
Yeah,
May
June.
is usually.
May or June, we usually see it.
Yeah. You will notice as you go down through airport, industrial park, that the employee benefits have been broken out. So that now every area is actually getting their fair share of employee benefits. They're not just being housed in the bridge expense.
Did we budget it that way?
Yes.
Okay.
And the bridge is doing quite well, as almost everything is below budget, as is the airport, except the maintenance expense, which, as I mentioned previously, includes the fuel.
Mhm.
And our general expenses, what's making those a little higher is A, Leo, and B, advertising. We had assumed some money for advertising, but we had also assumed that we would be, I think I made an incorrect assumption that we would actually be receiving the money from SkyWest instead of SkyWest just doing the advertising. So I don't think we had anticipated this much in advertising. The industrial park is doing well. And the marine terminal, the only thing that is high in the marine terminal is the maintenance expense, which a lot of it is still carrying forward on the tarp disposal that we had to pay for and the new tarps that we had to bring in. Otherwise, we are right now at a net gain of a modest $389,000. And that's been going to pay down our accounts payable.
So if you took out the salt so far, that counts for, budget-wise, we're pretty close.
If we took out the salt, yes, we'd be pretty much at zero.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so it kind of matches, I mean, there's a few here and there, but it matches what
Pretty
we
much matches.
anticipated.
Yeah.
But to go to Dave's point is, we're talking about a budget that we tamped down because of the situation we're in. When you say the bridge is doing well, it's doing well relative to our budget. Not, right, exactly. Yes, we still do.
And I can't make that many trips across to help it.
Excellent. Do you have any questions, Dave? For year to date, we show a difference between budget and actual for CARES Act reimbursements. Budget was 250 and year to date actual is 370. So it's $120,000 difference. What's going on?
It all depends on what's been spent.
Just say it again.
It depends on what has been spent at the airport.
I mean,
There's been a great deal more fuel purchased.
Sure.
So after we pay for the fuel, we can then request a reimbursement from the CARES Act. So more fuel, more this, more that. And that's pretty much what it comes down to, is what came through that month.
That makes perfect sense to me.
And it can also be a timing issue. If you have a month with 3 payrolls, you're going to get a third payroll back.
Mhm.
Where if you only have 2 payrolls in a month,
Mhm.
you're receiving less. And we've had 1 3-month payroll since the year started, the fiscal year began.
Mhm. I don't think I have any other questions. And
We do have Community Bank stopping tomorrow to turn the line of credit into a loan.
are they going to come here?
Well, the fellow who is our new rep, we've gone through 3 of them since I've been here,
Mhm.
and I haven't driven them out, really and truly.
Mhm.
He just wanted to come and meet Steve and I because we're both new.
Sure.
They've got the collateral lined up. So he just wants to come and I can show him where the insurance where we have insurance on all the items that are in the collateral, and we'll get the documents tomorrow.
Do you anticipate this to be any of a challenge? It sounds to me like stuff we've talked about before that is not a surprise.
It's not going to be a surprise. I don't know how painful it will be.
Sure.
I'm thinking anywhere between 10 and 12,000 a month in the principal interest that we'll be paying on this.
Mhm.
The only positive on that is the interest we're paying will continue to be reduced now that we're actually paying on the principal.
Sure.
So it's not just spending, I think it was $2,500 to $3,000 a month on,
We're going nowhere with it.
yes,
Mhm.
politely, yes. I would imagine it will be a 5-year loan max.
Mhm.
All right, pain is good.
In 5 years, we'll have another one crossed off the list. And we have brought our line of credit with Tompkins down from the max of 500,000 down to 290. And when the sale of the property goes through,
Mhm.
bulk of the proceeds from that will go down and hopefully get it close to 0.
Mhm.
And that line of credit will remain open for us to use,
Mhm.
where this one that's being turned into a term loan is being closed.
Yeah, Patty and I decided, just talking that, that was the right way to go. And it just left us still an option if we got into a pinch later on, rather than just taking it and putting to something where you never have access to that money. So this reduces our costs and that it's still available, but it's probably the best use of that money for now, but it gives us the flexibility. And we believe we're disciplined enough not to do that without coming to you saying something's come up. And that's kind of how we'd like to approach it, is that you'll know if we're heavily diving into that. But the idea is we haven't really touched it in a year.
No.
I mean, there was some, I had to get into it for a couple things back in February when COVID was hitting. But if I know what I knew today, I wouldn't have touched it. It just with that, but at the time we owed quite a bit, but Patty's got us in good shape there. So we're just at least letting that money, instead of making it work for us a little bit, but also giving us the option in case we need it.
Yep.
And it gives us a heck of a lot of good
Yeah, that's the other thing.
graces with
That's right.
the
With our
lender.
financials, yeah.
Well, it sounds to me as if we have the business done that I think needs to be done at the meeting.
I'm good.
So we move for adjournment?
So moved.
Do you folks want to bring anything up?
No, we-
adjourn?
I think
No,
we're on top of everything
Yeah.
right now.
Sounds
We're in the middle of doing all of the insurance renewals.
Mhm.
We're renewing them for 1 year only
Mhm.
to put out the RFQ next year. Instead of an RFP, we will go for an RFQ, which is the qualifications of the different agents, brokers. The problem we run into with much of our insurance is there are only 1 or 2 brokers that deal with bridge insurance or
Yes.
some of the marine terminal. If you put this out as an RFP, once 2 people bid on or go to those carriers, no one else can go to them.
Mhm.
So we would be likely better suited to go for an RFQ and we find someone whose qualifications we like and feel that we could work well with them. And they will go to the one or two people out there to try and get us the best deal on the airport insurance or the bridge insurance.
And what RFQ, we haven't ever gone there, but with an RFQ, you haven't locked into anything yet. And if you choose somebody and then they don't come back satisfactorily, we know an idea of what it's going to cost, but if they don't perform based on what we thought they were going to do, we don't have to go with them. We can take the next one. We've never got that deep because usually everybody performs there, but with the RFQ process, you really negotiate to where you want to be, whether it's engineering and then you come up with a price, and if they come back with a package and they can't justify it, you don't have to. You can say, we're going to move on to choice number 2. It's never happened since I've been here, but it is an option. So it allows you to get, what you expect to get, but also we know some of the pricing there. So it's nothing that will be too out of whack, I don't think there. So that's kind of what we decided on that.
It's an interesting new thing from my point of view.
Yes, and right now we have
Sounds good.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 agents who carry our insurance. And something happens, and the
Really
first question we
appropriate to
ask is,
consolidate
who's it? Who do we call?
Try to find somebody who can, in a sense, be your manager
Of our
for
insurance.
bridges.
Do you need a motion again?
I think we've got a motion to adjourn, and all in favor, aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Okay.